Hey guys, how are we doing there? Yeah, so today's video we're talking about the Hop Bong. Now this is a device which we made specifically because a lot of people need to add hops or even other findings or additions into their fermenter or ingredients throughout the fermentation process, but it's hard to do that without actually getting oxygen into the fermenter at the same time. So very recently we've made these. Basically we've got the Hop Bong in the 2-inch size and also in the 1.5-inch size. Historically what we had is people with this type of stuff buying sight glasses and putting hops into a sight glass and then using a butterfly valve to basically, dose hops into a pressurizable fermenter. And now that pressurizable fermenters are starting to become so common, a lot of home brewers are doing a great job at keeping oxygen off that wort during the fermentation process, but are faced with this, really difficult problem to solve when you're putting stuff into the fermenter. How do you do it without all this oxygen getting in when you take the lid off? So, we felt there was a real need for this device, and let me get into it and show you how it works. So obviously we've got a couple of different sizes of the Hop Bong. We've got the 1.5-inch and we've got the 2-inch. So let me show you how the 2-inch works. If you guys are familiar with our Firmzilla Triconical or any of the Firmzilla range, you'll know that the big opening on top, you can buy an upgradable lid like this. So this is the lid with a 2-inch triclover opening on top of the lid so you can put additions into the fermenter. You can actually see that in the new triclover conical video we did recently. So have a look at that one if you haven't already seen that video. But anyway, so you need to upgrade the lid on your Firmzilla to this type of lid. Then what you can do is get this assembly here. So I've got the Hop Bong in the middle here. I've basically got this, 2-inch to 2-inch butterfly here. Now, be mindful that we've got a number of different Firmzilla butterfly sizes, so you make sure to get the right one if you want to do this. Going to drop that silicone seal on there and clamp this on like so. So the parts I've got here is, that 2-inch butterfly valve, 2-inch triclover clamp, the PCO 1881 carbonation cap here, that's in the plastic. Obviously, if you wanted to use stainless steel, you can upgrade to stainless steel if you like, but look, I find the polyketone ones work great. Then I've got the 2-inch to 1881 reducer, and then I've got the PCO 1881 to pressure release valve, so I can release the pressure out of here when I'm purging the hops out. So that entire assembly there is all heat resistant and can go in the autoclave as well if you wanted to. So that's a nice thing about all of these engineering plastics. I suppose they can handle quite high temperatures. Now, if you wanted to do this on something like the brew-built fermenter, a lot of the brew-built fermenters have a 1.5-inch opening on the lid. So obviously, for this size fermenter, you'll have to get pretty much all the same parts here, but in the 1.5-inch triclover size. Then you just whack that on top like so, and as you can imagine, that's what it's going to look, but just a little bit smaller. So let's see this guy in action with some hops in there and see how it works. At the moment, I've got like a 100-gram pack of hops in here, so I'm going to drop that in. You can see how much 100 grams goes up to here. So that's kind of filling to, just the base of the Hop Bong. So this is the 2-inch Hop Bong, as I said before. But we've also got a 1.5-inch Hop Bong. So the 1.5-inch Hop Bong obviously is a smaller diameter, so it's not going to hold as much hops. But let's get another 100-gram bag and drop that in as well. So you can see now, even with a couple of 100 grams of hops, we still haven't even filled this bad boy up right to the top. I could probably put another, maybe 30 or 40 grams in there. And now I've got a really, really handy assembly. What I can do is hit this with CO2, purge that gas out of there by pulling this pressure release valve on top like this. And then once I feel like I've got this sufficiently purged of gas, all I have to do is open up this valve here, and as you can see, that hops with a few movements of the lever, all drops down into the fermenter. So let me show you one of the other applications you can use this for. So let's say you're wanting to make a hop Randall. Now, if you don't know what a hop Randall is a device which you can basically run, finished beer through and infuse more hop flavors. Now, it can also be used for other stuff, for other botanicals, or you can fill this with herbs and spices and stuff like that. But essentially what we're doing is we've got beer which is coming from a pressurized source, let's say a fermenter or a keg, and running into the hop Randall, infusing through all the ingredients or hops or whatever. This is really great with hop flowers in particular. So if you're someone who's growing your own flowers at home, it's a great way to use them to infuse a lot of that hop aroma and oils into the beer right before it dispenses. So yeah, the beer travels in from the keg, goes through the hop Randall, then comes out the other side and then goes to your tap or your glass where you can drink it. So if you wanted to make a hop Randall, I'd recommend getting something like this. So basically using a flat stainless steel 2-inch end cap and then putting a tri-clover clamp on the base like this. So it just goes like that, for instance. And then on the other side, yeah, put the this guy here. So this is the, once again, the 2-inch to 1881 threaded piece. But instead of using one of these silicone seals, what I've got is actually this Teflon seal with a stainless steel mesh insert. Now, the reason I have to do that is because I don't want all of the, the hop flowers and stuff like that, coming out through this ball lock post and blocking the ball lock post. Or I don't want any of that stuff to go to my actual tap itself. So, I go like that, put that on top, and then put this tri-clover cap on here, tri-clover clamp on here like that. Put that on, and then lastly, screw that on there like that. And as you can see, now what I can do is get beer flow in here, infuse through all the ingredients I've got inside the Randall, and then on the top end, I can have this, connected with the ball lock, disconnect and go to my, my tapping system. So another really useful device which you can use the Hop Bong in. So another handy device you might want to put together is an inline carbonator or some type of inline oxygenator. So for instance, with carbonation, let's say you're transferring from a Firmzilla into, let's say, a keg or something like that, and you want to carbonate as you're pushing it from one vessel to a next. Now, if you're carbonating liquid, obviously you want that liquid to be cold so it absorbs the carbon dioxide really easily. So what you could do is basically put a tri-clover seal on there like that, put this guy in place like so, do that up there. So I've got the 2-inch to 1881 threaded bit again, and then I've got another tri-clover seal and the same part on the other side, like that. May as well line the clamps up on the same side, I suppose. So that just goes on there like so. Once again, using the yellow carbonation cap. I generally use the yellow carbonation caps for liquid and I use the red ones for gas. And then I've got the carbonation cap here with the diffusion stone. So, I'm going to screw that in here like that. And what I did is I did some testing with this device and it worked pretty well. Where I ran cold water in here, it basically carbonates with the carbonation stone and comes out the other side already carbonated. So I should say these housings as well are rated to 10 bar pressure. So you really crank the pressures right up to get a high dose of carbonation if you're transferring from one vessel to another and want to do inline carbonation. So another really useful device. If you're also doing inline oxygenation, it's another reason you might want to use this device too. So let's say, for instance, you're transferring from your chiller. Let's say you got some type of plate chiller or something like that. So you've just finished the brewing process. You're transferring from your brewery, you're chilling it down. After it's chilled, you could also put oxygen into this post here and then transfer the wort through here. So it's essentially getting the oxygen infused before it goes through the unit and goes into your fermenter, for instance. So, oxygenator or carbonator, another great reason to use this device. So another useful thing you can do is use the Hop Bong as a yeast brink. So essentially collecting yeast in here, and you can actually use it to dispense the yeast out of directly into the top of your fermenter. So for instance, I've got the Brewbuilt fermenter here with the big cone on the base. Now the cone on the Brewbuilt's already 2-inch triclover, so they'll match up obviously with the 2-inch Hop Bong. So if I wanted to ferment and then use this guy on the bottom, I can just collect yeast in there like so, like that. And after I've collected all the yeast, but probably prior to me adding dry hops, because I don't really want hops getting into a yeast container if I want to keep that yeast. But yeah, you turn off the butterfly gate valve, open this up when it's full of yeast, take that off, And then the most likely scenario would be to use this type of cap on top. So basically that would go on there like that. And then I would have my yeast stored in this type of container. Now, because I've got this type of assembly on top, I could also tip it upside down like so, and then clip on a pressurized gas source or oxygen source for that matter, and then push the yeast down through this post here, and then actually connect a bit of beer line or so forth and actually dispense the yeast in through the post on my fermenter. Or look, if you had a fairly sanitary arrangement where you're brewing, you could just remove the lid off like that and just pour the yeast in. It's probably just as easy. So another useful device where you can use the Hop Bong. Thanks for that, guys. Hope you enjoy using the very multi-purpose Hop Bong. If you want to hear about any of the other cool new stuff that's coming out, definitely hit subscribe now, bottom right-hand corner, and you'll be the first one to hear about everything that we bring out. Lastly, if you want to share this video with a friend, that would really help us. And also join our Facebook Homebrew community group, where we've got lots of guys like yourself sharing tips and tricks on how to use all the gear. Anyway, that's it for this video, and see you next time. Bye.